Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine and Wisdom with Lauren and Tara.
I just spilled wine all over myself.
First ever Wine and Wisdom unboxing. So, rosé mix.
Charged us like $50 for this. I thought Lauren's a lightweight, so she'll be drunk for sure. If we do it, what are you laughing at?
Look at your feet. Why do they look like that? It's a Niagara wine.
It's not that fancy.
We'll grow, I know.
And today we are talking about, Lauren?
How we manifested our dream homes.
Yes. So why don't you go first? I feel like Lauren. Okay.
Well, Tara and I both have like very different manifestation stories, and we've also both had very different or actually similar situations in the past where we were living in places that we didn't love.
Yeah.
So for me, before I lived in this apartment, and maybe we can like B-roll some footage.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Send that in there to me. Send that to me.
Before I lived here, I lived in a small, like not studio, but a small apartment above a storefront, and the storefront played like Beats music all day long, and it was like anything but glamorous. And I was like desperate to manifest my way out of that. And then I temporarily did some traveling, moved in with my parents, and I've lived in this apartment now for over a little bit over a year. So I mean, I'm trying to think about like what, so my apartment, I mean, people ask me about it all the time. I have like a really incredible view of the city of Toronto. It's like
B-roll
from Tara's wedding,
Yeah.
COVID-19.
So I got married.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm trying to think about what. So like a year and a bit ago when I was looking for an apartment. Now I live in Toronto, where it's like some of the most expensive like rent prices and real estate prices in the entire world. But not only that, you have to like apply if there's a nice apartment that is, you know, going up in Toronto. There's often a bidding war just to get an apartment to rent, and you have to apply. You have to the number of documents I had to fill out, applications I had to give like a full credit report, employment history, have references. And for me, being a single entrepreneur, I just so often didn't really compare to, you know, two people that were wanting to move into a one bedroom. Of course, if the landlord gets to choose between one person paying a crazy amount of rent versus two people paying a crazy amount of rent, they're probably going to go with the two people, especially if those two people have like, you know, real jobs, quote unquote, secure jobs.
Little did they know.
Yeah, little did they know. Like then COVID came and nothing was secure except for like, I mean, we could do a whole episode on how being an entrepreneur during COVID, I made the most money that I ever have because I chose to, right?
Yeah.
Like your mindset is really the only security that anybody has. So anyways, so I've been applying for apartments in Toronto. I had a list of what I wanted. I'd written down what I wanted, and nothing was really happening for me. I'd applied for a couple of places and not gotten them, and they weren't even like really what I wanted. And then I think I got to a point where I was just sort of like fed up, and I kind of just surrendered the whole thing. And I was like, you know what, I'll just stay at my parents' for a little while. I was really nervous about having the money to pay for an apartment in Toronto. Just at that point, my business wasn't like super secure, I guess, or it didn't feel that secure to me at the time. And so what I started doing was like, I had kind of let go. I was like, the perfect place is going to manifest for me whenever it's meant to. I had my list of the things that I wanted that I thought I could get. Yeah.
So important, the aspect of that you let go. Because you were like looking and looking, right?
I was driving, like my parents live an hour outside of Toronto. I was driving to Toronto like sometimes 3 times a week and looking at these apartments. I was trying to force it. Absolutely. I was like, this is the list that I want, and I want it by this date. And I was putting all these like, you know, like specifics on it and requirements that were then causing resistance. Right. And so I finally got to the point where like nothing was working out. There was one apartment actually that I applied for that I really thought I was going to get. The landlord had 2 of the same apartment. I got my mom to co-sign for me at that point in time, just because of where I was at with my business and stuff. Now I would have no problem getting a place on my own. But, and I remember like going to bed that night after I'd applied, and there was just this part of me that was like, I feel like there's something better than this. Like this place doesn't wow me. And at that point in time, I wanted to grow into, you know, a multiple 6-figure and beyond business. And I didn't want to live in a place that didn't inspire that, but I was really like up against just my limiting beliefs around people aren't going to want me to live, you know, they're not going to accept me over somebody else, you know, all these, I had lots of limiting beliefs. Anyway, so I'd applied for one place, and that night after applying, I was like, I just feel like there's more for me, or I feel like there could be something better. And that place was like, it had like a small Juliet balcony, like no outdoor space at all, which like when you see my place now is like, it's so crazy. It had like one of those, I mean, it was still a nice apartment, but it had one of those, I don't know if you've seen them, like it had a bedroom that, like basically is on the inside of the apartment. So there's no windows, and it just has these like 2 sliding doors that turn it into like this little square bedroom in the middle of the, it's like a weird thing that they do in these small condo buildings. Anyway, so that night I remember sort of setting this intention as I was going to bed, like, universe, if there's something better for me, then don't let this apartment go through. Don't let this application be accepted. And I really believed that it was going to be. And the next day my realtor called and said that he'd gotten in a fight with them, and they just, because they were trying to charge me for something, they wanted to put something in the lease that was like kind of not really allowed. He got in a fight with them, and they were just like, okay, well, screw you then. And so it got denied for like a really strange reason. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on what it is that how I want to feel in my apartment. I like just let go of my list. And instead what I did, I honestly think I did it like 2 times. I started visualizing this like really light-filled apartment where I walked in the front door, I like put my keys on the table beside me, and and I tuned into how I felt. The way that I felt was like very abundant, very, I walked in and I was like, oh, I can't believe I get to live here. Like that's what the visualization was, but I had let go of it happening anytime soon, to be honest. And then like, well, the way that it all unfolded, like 2 days later, basically I wanted an apartment I couldn't afford in Toronto at that time. Like 2 days later, I was in Toronto with my best friend, and who is now married to Tara. We'll do a future episode on that.
That's how it had to happen.
I know. Oh yeah, no. And him and I got to talking, and long story short, he decided that he wanted to have a part-time place to stay in Toronto, and was like, why don't you find a 2-bedroom and I will pay the difference, and I'll just come down on the weekends. And so the next morning we found this place online. He agreed to come in and see it the next day because I couldn't. And so that was the best part, was like when the perfect place manifested, I didn't even have to come to the city. It just all lined up. Like everything was done for me, you know? And he loved this place. Like it has like a 400 square foot terrace with a perfect view of the city. It has another little balcony as well. It's a 2-bedroom. This is where Trevor used to live. Now it's my office, because he got married. Anyways. And yeah, it's just like, everybody asks me about my apartment. It does cost way less than it should for living in a 2-bedroom in this location with this amount of outdoor space in Toronto. And it was all just so easy, you know, everything just lined up for me, and we had the apartment within a few days. We moved in. We'll do a future episode later where we talk about what happened after that. And Tara was already a friend of mine at that point through like Instagram.
Was I though?
Yeah.
When you moved into this place?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't really know each other.
That's not true.
No, because the day, we did know each other. Right. That was the first day I saw Trevor on your Instagram.
Yeah, the first day, that night that you saw Trevor on my Instagram.
Was the day before you guys decided to move in to a place together.
It was the day we decided to find a place together. By the way, I ran into something sharp. And that's fine. And and you commented on that being like, ooh, who's the cute guy? So I'd already hired you as a coach Anyways, see last week's video or our previous video on
Yeah.
how Tara manifests with your best friend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and it's just really showed me that like you can let go and just tune into the feeling and manifest something so much better than you'd even imagine, because I never in a million years would have thought that like the way that this all unfolded, where Trev lived here part-time for a while, then he met you. And at the time he was ready to leave, I was ready to take over the whole lease and have this as my office. That also happened to be right when COVID was happening. And I was so grateful to get a workspace at home. And yeah, so it was like that unfolding I could never have predicted. It also like really proved a lot of my limiting beliefs wrong around like getting specific, you know, like thinking that we need to be super specific on every single thing that we want or else the universe won't know to give it to us. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I instead just tuned into the way that I wanted to feel. And it was specifically like, I want this place to be expansive for me. I want to feel like I'm going to grow into it rather than growing out of it within the first few months of living there, which is totally what would have happened with any of the other places that I looked at. Right. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, from there, moving in here, my business totally like transformed, took off, started hitting like consistent 20K months. I don't know. It was just such a, it's like when you let go a little bit and you just tune into, you just visualize how it is that you want to feel, the universe can really work its magic. And that's when things get so fun.
Yeah. It's so true.
Magic.
I feel like that's a big thing that we kind of talk about in My Magic, is that we think that we have to get so like, okay, universe, like, are you sure that you know I want this X, Y, and Z? And like, make sure that you know that, and like put it on a vision board and write it all down. But like the universe knows what you want. You don't even need to ever say it out loud or write it down or do anything. All you need to do is get really clear on the feeling that you want to feel and start practicing that vibration. And oh my gosh. And that leads to things, because we're limited in what we can even imagine for ourselves. And I'm sure you never imagined where you're living now. Like you never probably even imagined that as a possibility.
And even if I could have imagined it, like I didn't know like a place like this existed, but even if I could have imagined it, I never in a million years would have thought that I was like capable of having it.
Yeah.
Right. With my income at the time, like my income was just really inconsistent. So I would have like a 20K month, and then I would like make no money at all for a couple of months, you know, it was really inconsistent like that. So I had fears around that. And like, yeah, if I had known this apartment existed, and I also think if I'd been the one to come and see the apartment instead of Trev, I would have gotten way too attached. And he did send me like a video, and I got attached to like just seeing it in the video. But if I'd been the one to come and see this apartment, I would have been like, I need to live there. Oh my God, I can't even believe like it, you know what I mean? But so it's like the universe knew all of those things, you know, and my only job was to imagine how I wanted to feel. And I did have a visualization that represented that, but there wasn't a lot of specifics. And by the way, this place did have everything that was on my original list and way more. Mm-hmm. And then 2, let go of the how and the when, because the how ended up being so much better than I could have imagined, where I did get to live with Trev for that time. And it was super fun. And it was exactly what it was meant to be. And then he met you. And then at the time that he was ready to go, I was ready to take the apartment over. And it was totally this like mutual thing. And then the when, like it took an extra month from what I thought when I thought I wanted to move to Toronto. I was like, I want June 1st, 2019. And we didn't move until the end of June. But like, that's just because this, you know, the more things had to unfold. And that's where we can't get too attached to the when, right? Yeah. Because what if like, I could have manifested a place for June 1st, but it wouldn't have been even a fraction of what this apartment is for me, right? Yeah. But I was forced to wait another month. And thank God.
Yeah.
You know, so everything is always working out in your favor, even when it really doesn't look that way.
Yeah. 100%. I love it. Yeah. So
how did you?
How did I? So I live on the West Coast, and I love being by the water. And that's always been on my list of like, I want to be by the ocean. And same like what Lauren said, I didn't even know that this place existed, because I'm literally 2 steps from the ocean, and it's amazing. So thanks to Lauren that I actually got this place, because I was living in my sister's backyard. I had just gone through a breakup, and I had to move out on my own, and I was just like not in a great place. And so I was living in like her tiny little like 300 square foot like garden suite. My little sister, like how embarrassing is that? and it had like a Murphy bed, and it was great for what I needed at the time. And then me and Lauren were actually on a Wine and Wisdom one time, and probably like a year ago almost, or I don't know when that happened. And Lauren was like, you need to up level out of that place. And I hadn't even really it hadn't really occurred to me, because I was like, oh, it's super cheap living in my sister's backyard. Like, she's there when I'm lonely and stuff. And then that night, after Lauren said that, I got my brain thinking like, actually, yeah, I feel like I'm ready to move. And then that night, me and my sister got in this stupid miscommunication argument, and I was like, that's it, I'm moving out. So the very next day, I went on Craigslist, and the place that I'm living in used to be an Airbnb, and it wasn't for long-term rentals. And there's a pool here and a gym, and it's oceanfront, and it's a beautiful little cottage, and it was never even available to rent until that day. And I found it, and within an hour, it had just been posted, and I snagged this waterfront cottage with air conditioning, and but I almost backed out because it was scary, because it was way more than I was paying. I still was renting out a space for my gym at the time. And Lauren was like, the universe would not have brought this to you if you weren't ready for it. And she totally was like, you could do this. And thank God she did, because it the same thing, when we jump into these things that we're not quite ready for, and we should do a YouTube video on this, it just up levels you to the next level. And that just caused me to realize how much more I wanted from my life, and changed everything. So, and I had everything on my list plus more. I never could have. It's the only outdoor pool in all of Victoria. It's the only place where I think that you can be steps from the water, and there's paddle boards and kayaks, and right by nature, and I'm so close to town, and it's just everything. It was perfect. And I got to decorate it all in my girly pink and white, and yeah, so that's my story. It just appeared.
And I think that what there is in common here is we both live in places where we're I can't believe I get to live here. And it's if it wasn't my story, it still does feel too good to be true. Mm-hmm. And similar to your story where it's it had just become available, it was the same thing with this. This apartment sat empty for a year because the guy that owns it, I guess, just has tons of money and doesn't care. I don't know.
He didn't even collect Lauren's rent checks for a year.
No, for 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Then he did, though. I paid to live here. Don't worry. Anyways, but yeah, that's how much he just didn't care. So it sat empty for a year. And when the day after Trev and I think it was posted on the day that him and I were yep, let's live together. Let's go all in. And it came up the next morning, all of those things just aligned so perfectly. And previously I hadn't been looking at 2 bedrooms, if it had been online beforehand, I would never have seen it, nor would I have allowed myself to look at a place for that price, because at the time it was just, felt out of reach. And I think what Tara's saying about, a lot of the times when what it is that we want manifests, it feels really scary, because we never really we're oh my God, when my dream apartment manifests, or when my dream relationship manifests, or my dream job, or when I finally get to go full time in my business, what we don't really think about is how scary those things are, and how scary it is to let go of what's been comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that is it deserves its own episode, but that's always been my thing, is this wouldn't have manifested, especially in this very perfect, effortless way, if the universe was just going to be well, here it is, but sucks for you, you're not going to have rent next month.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wouldn't happen,
Yeah.
So there is a lot of this, especially if you are, Tara and I are both entrepreneurs, we, make our own money. There's a lot of trust required to continuously manifest bigger and bigger. But that's where it starts to get really fun, because it's what's the next big thing I can leap into and trust and scare the shit out of myself for. And
yeah. And yeah, I think we should do an episode on that. I just think of that next level, what that would be for you. Is it a new home? Is it a new car? Is it quitting your full-time job if you're trying to start a business? And can you do it before you're ready? Because you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be yes, I'm 100% ready. I have all this money. I had no idea how I was going to pay the rent on the second month.
Yeah.
But it all worked.
Mm-hmm.
Still paying full rent because my husband isn't working. So.
Let's not dive too far into that. So, but We do have, by the way, a free resource for you guys. It's in the comments section or the description about, the fastest way to change your reality is by telling a new story. It is what we teach in our membership, which is called Mind Magic. But we have a free training for you guys if you want to check that out. And I think that what's important here is to look at, what was the story we were telling about once we decided we wanted our dream places. What is it that we were focusing on, right? And for me, I was focused on, at first, I was focused on, I'm not going to get the place that I really want. What if I can't afford it? They're not going to choose me. It's really, really hard. At the time, I was like, I still had more debt than I was, happy to admit. I've since, we're going to do an episode on that. I've manifested that away. But yeah, so that was my story. And then once I shifted it to what, I'm good right now. I have my parents' place to live at. And the perfect place is going to come in the perfect time. And once that started being my new story, everything lined up really, really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sometimes if you're feeling like a lot of resistance, it's better to just go a little bit more general, focus on appreciating where you are and really getting really grateful in the moment. I've noticed that just currently, because I'm so ready to go to the next level and I find myself almost being why aren't I there yet, And then today I just looked back and I was like, holy shit, I've come a long way. And when you look at it that way, it's so much more empowering. And then you get into that vibration and then things start manifesting so fast.
Yes. I always come back to it, but we've never shared it obviously on our YouTube channel, which is an Abraham quote of the perfect point of attraction is being satisfied with where you are while reaching for more. So, and that's really, as long as we are pushing up against where we are, and it's not that you have to find perfect gratitude and appreciation, especially if you're in a shitty situation that you're really ready to be done with, but you have to stop having such a intense need for things to be different, such that you're in this desperate or worrisome place when you are imagining what it is that you want. Right.
Yeah.
And I've never been perfect with this. It's you know what? I'm lucky to have a roof over my head and I trust that the perfect place is going to come, or this thing is going to unfold however it's meant to. And you don't even have to be perfect with that, but that has had big things manifest for me.
Yeah.
My business taking off, this apartment manifesting, all kinds of different things where it's it's not that I'm accepting where I am or that I want to stay here. It's that I can find the good things in it right now and continue to work towards and imagine what it is that I want for myself. And then,
although acceptance is not a bad thing. I think that gets a bad rap because people think when you accept something, then it's never going to change. But I believe it's actually completely the opposite. Once you finally have acceptance, you've eliminated all the resistance and then new things can rush in so much faster. So finding acceptance, in your body, in your business, in your home, in your relationships, whatever it is, even if it's not where you want to be, that's totally fine. But acceptance and where you are now will lead to such faster results to where you want to be.
Yeah. Acceptance is just not resisting what is. Right?
Yeah.
Because you get what you focus on. So if you're resisting what is, it's I live with my parents and I'm 31 and this sucks and how come it's not working out? I'll never find a place. Right. Exactly. That's me we just create what we focus on. So that's me creating and manifesting more and more of the thing that I don't want. Right. Instead of being you know what? I love my parents. They're so good to me. It's so wonderful that I have this beautiful place to stay and they're not going to kick me out anytime soon. And they're happy for me to be here. And it's beautiful in the summer. I just started looking for the good things in that situation and things shifted from there so quickly.
You guys got to do
that. You're right. That's that feeling of it. Yeah. We go into a lot more detail on this. And there is like we said, freebie for you in the comments. Also, you can join our wait list. We open once every 3 months and it changes your life. September 1st. Yeah.
October.
Which people might be, October 1st. Yeah. Today's September 1st. People might be watching this after that date, but we open every quarter and it is life changing. So
game changer.
Yeah.
All right.
And lots more of this. Yeah. See you next week.
We're just going to go do this now live. Oh yeah. That's what we did. Is that what we did last time? Bye.
I don't know.